Are the talks of a new Xbox console being leaked actually true? Is Microsoft planning on taking the PlayStation 5 technology and using it for the Xbox Series X? And a long time ago, Microsoft almost actually purchased Nintendo, EA, and Square. There's a lot here to talk about, so let's get into it. What is going on, everybody? It's Randall Thor19, the man with a million, back again with another video. I hope everyone's having a great day, and if you guys can do me a huge favor, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and please hit that notification bell if you haven't already. It really helps the channel grow, and I want to thank each and every one of you guys for all the support you've shown me recently. Alright, so we have three huge topics planned for this video. One of them deals with the fact that Microsoft almost bought EA, Nintendo, and or Square Enix when they were joining the video game industry back in 2000. And Nintendo just laughed at them, but I can't help but imagine what the industry would be like today if Microsoft actually succeeded in buying Nintendo and EA. It definitely would be completely different. We're going to talk about this a little bit later on in the video. There's also a survey going around from Microsoft asking users what they think about the Xbox Series X, but more interestingly, asking people if they're aware of the DualSense features of the PlayStation 5 controllers and if they would like that technology to be used in Xbox controllers in the future. But our first topic is this talk of how a new Xbox console has been leaked. Yes, that's right, the brand new Xbox console. I've seen people talking about this on Twitter and on YouTube, how Microsoft is planning on releasing a new console either this year or next year with the name Xbox Series XS. Yes, that's right, that's not confusing at all. Microsoft has a console called the Xbox Series X and a console called the Xbox Series S, and this brand new console would just combine both of those names and call it the Xbox Series XS. Or at least that's what some people would want you to believe, that Microsoft somehow is planning to release maybe a discless version of the Xbox Series X and calling it the XS, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. So where's this information coming from? Well, it's because Microsoft filed a brand new trademark, which you can see here on screen, and Microsoft is trademarking the term Xbox Series XS, and this has obviously led to a lot of speculation from people who don't really know what they're talking about whether or not this is a brand new console set to launch at the end of this year and next year. Now, I will say, I do expect Microsoft to launch a slim version of an Xbox Series X sometime in the future. I can't imagine it would be anytime soon, though. It usually takes 3 years before a slim version of the PlayStation or an Xbox is available to buy, so I do expect that to happen. The reason this is being trademarked is because Microsoft uses the Xbox Series X with a line in between the X and S all the time. You can see it in your My Games and Apps where a game has that X and S logo. Hell, you can even see it in my thumbnails where I have Xbox Series X line S all the time when I'm talking about Xbox. It's just Microsoft protecting that trademark so they can use Xbox Series X line S and official Xbox Wire post and all that different sort of thing. Now, I don't know this for 100% fact. I never say anything 100%, but I am like 90% sure this is the case. I don't think Microsoft is going to combine the X and S into one thing for a console that may be coming out in a couple years. And the idea of Microsoft putting out a discless Xbox Series X is appealing to a lot of people. The PlayStation 5 has the regular edition PlayStation at $500, and they also have the digital edition at $400. But Microsoft has the Series S at $299 with the Series X at $499, and some people have said, hey, you know what, Microsoft, I would love to give you $400. Give me the Xbox Series X and all the power that that system has, but I really don't want that disk drive. Can you make a system like that for me, like how PlayStation has with the digital edition? And while that would be a great idea to hit all those price points, 500, 400, and 300, I just can't see Microsoft introducing an Xbox Series X without a disk drive, maybe until they slim that version out. But if they did do that, it certainly wouldn't be called the Xbox Series XS. It would just be called the Xbox Series X All Digital Edition. So no, this isn't a leak of a new Xbox console launching this year. It's just Microsoft protecting their trademark when they want to use Xbox Series X and S in the same sentence or whatever. Now, next up, I really want to talk about the survey that Microsoft is sending out to people who have purchased the Xbox Series X and S, and how one of the questions talks about the PlayStation 5 and if you would like to see DualSense features on an Xbox controller in the future. You can see the survey here. It asks pretty basic questions like, is the console high quality? And you can either strongly disagree as a 1 or you can strongly agree as a 4. They ask, hey, I customized the settings so that the console is customized specifically to me. The console is desirable. The console feels faster than any other console I've used, and the console feels next gen. Now, the last one is kind of interesting because there's been a lot of talk about how the Xbox Series X doesn't feel next gen. So Microsoft is asking its users, hey, do you feel it's next gen? And I wonder if you've actually purchased it, what you would say. Would you strongly disagree with the console being next gen, or would you strongly agree? Let me know what you think about the Xbox Series X in the comments below. The survey continues and asks, hey, have you used the share button on the controller that came with the console? I'm satisfied with how I can share screenshots or videos with the share button. How skilled are you at using a console gaming controller? And here's the question that everybody's going to focus on. I am aware of the features on the PlayStation controllers that I wish were on the controller that came with this console. Now, if I was taking that survey, I would say 4. Yes, I am totally aware of the features of the PlayStation 5 Dualsense, and I actually really do want them on the new Xbox controller. So what do I think Microsoft is doing here? I think they're obviously asking and surveying their audience if they want those features in the next Xbox controller. And I'm not saying a new controller 6 years from now when there's a brand new generation. I'm talking maybe in the Elite Series 3. We've seen 2 iterations of the Elite controller, the original Elite and the Elite Series 2. Who's to say that another Elite Series 3 controller doesn't come out in a few years, a couple years, and actually has some of those features that the PlayStation 5 Dualsense is known for, specifically the haptic feedback and the adaptive triggers. Remember, this is what Phil Spencer had to say about the PlayStation controller. Quote, I applaud what they did with the controller, not actually for, well, I shouldn't say not for the specifics of the controller, but more than just the specifics of the controller. I think for all of us in this industry, we should learn from each other and the innovation that we all push on, whether it's the distribution of business model like Game Pass or controller tech, or the Wii back in the day, which clearly had an impact on us when we went off and did Kinect and Sony did the Move. I think all of that innovation is something that we should all be looking at and learning and growing and saying, okay, what's really going to break out and become a common part of a platform that developers and players are going to look for? Or what is more vertical around a specific scenario on a specific piece of hardware? We're trying to be eyes open on that for any technology, whether it's controller or any VR or anything else. Now, one of the things you hear all the time about the PlayStation 5 is how it feels next gen, mainly because of the new controller and the haptic feedback and the resistance triggers. And I played a bunch of the PlayStation 5 and I love the haptic feedback and would really like to see Microsoft take that technology, make it their own, patent it, whatever, and include it in an Xbox Elite Series 3 controller that they can sell at a premium price, whether it's $150, $200, and then eventually include a standard on another controller for next generation. I'm not really a fan of the adaptive triggers, but I do love the haptic feedback. Even before this survey, I was convinced that Microsoft was gauging public interest about whether or not to take some of those features that the DualSense has and put them in an Xbox controller. And now I'm even more convinced that Microsoft and the teams there that work on the controllers and the accessories are legitimately thinking about doing so. If you're an Xbox fan and you're watching this video, which the majority of you are, let me know in the comments below if you want those features from the DualSense to make it over to the Xbox controller, or if you're happy with the way the controller is currently. So the last topic for this video is a funny one. It's basically a retrospective of how when Microsoft was planning on entering the video game industry, they wanted to buy some high-profile developers, even Nintendo. You can see here, quote, the first company we reached out to buy was EA. They said no thanks. And then Nintendo recalled Microsoft's then head of business development, Bob McBreen. Quote, Steve made us go meet with Nintendo to see if they would consider being acquired, added Kevin Backus, Xbox's then director of third-party relations. They just laughed their asses off. Like, imagine an hour of somebody just laughing at you. That was kind of how that meeting went. Now, the fact that Microsoft tried to purchase Nintendo isn't exactly new news, but what I find really interesting here is how they went to try to purchase EA, it didn't go through, and how Nintendo just basically laughed in their faces. I don't know, the idea of some American businessmen going to Japan, meeting with the heads of Nintendo, And those Japanese businessmen just laughing in the faces of everybody at Xbox when they tried to talk about being acquired just makes me smile for whatever reason. But Nintendo and EA weren't the only companies Microsoft tried to purchase. According to McBreen, Microsoft also attempted to purchase Square, the maker of Final Fantasy and Midway Games, the non-closed publisher behind Mortal Kombat. Quote, "We had a letter of intent to buy Square. In early November 1999, we went to Japan. We had one of those big dinners with their CEO and Steve Ballmer. The next day, we're sitting in their boardroom and they said, our banker would like to make a statement. And basically, the banker said, Square cannot go through with this deal because the price is too low. We packed up, we went home, and that was the end of Square." So as I'm sitting here making this video, I'm imagining a scenario in some parallel universe where this actually happened. Microsoft was able to acquire EA, Nintendo, and Square Enix. Could you imagine how that would have changed the video game industry forever? Microsoft not only having Gears of War and Halo, but owning Mario and Super Smash Bros., Pokemon, Animal Crossing, Zelda, and all the great Nintendo franchises alongside Square Enix and Final Fantasy and all of EA's portfolio. They would definitely be the market leader in the video game industry. And it's wild to think that that could have happened and that there was some interest and Microsoft wanted to do this. It was just at the time, none of these companies wanted to pull the trigger. It's pretty wild to think about. But anyways, guys, that's the video. Let me know what you think about all these stories in the comments below. And as always, if you enjoyed it, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Hit the notification bell so you're notified immediately whenever I drop a new video like this. Please share this on social media or tell a friend about the channel. I would greatly appreciate that. If you want to take your support even further, you can always hit the join button, where you will get access to channel badges and emotes for the Xbox 2 podcast we do every single Friday with Jez Corden from Windows Central. Thank you guys so much for watching. I truly appreciate each and every one of you that take the time out of your day to do so, and I'll see you in the next video. Later, guys.